Dreaming Out Loud is a very unique program that supports a very specific and unheard community.
I suppose that it was 2017, maybe the conversation was changing in the US because migrants were considered not a healthy result of the success of a country, but a problem.
Throughout the history of the United States, immigrants have been villainized. Though we have built communities of support and love, cultures that continue to feed up culture here in the United States, and yet there's often this violence and erasure that immigrants have always faced.
So that's why we thought that we should work with a population that was being represented really badly in the media. We were thinking about doing something meaningful, and this idea came out.
Dreaming Out Loud is a phenomenal free program for immigrants throughout New York City, through which they could write their humanity through poetry, prose, and playwriting with the support of professional writers who look and sound like them.
The goal is to develop new voices and mentor them through writing workshops.
The original workshop was in a closet, and now there is faculty. There are workshops being held in different parts of the city. The readings are enormous in incredibly cool places.
The World Voices Festival gives us an opportunity as emerging writers to be able to share our work to the public and also to be published in an anthology.
We definitely enrich our experience by listening to all voices, and I've been very surprised on how beautiful and rich those voices are.
I care a lot about fellowship, I care a lot about community, and that includes peer review. It includes being able to read your work to other people. And writing is labor, and there's something useful with every laborer and every type of labor to be able to share it with your peers, to be able to get feedback, to be able to improve, to be able to learn and develop.
I think it's so beautiful to have a space where all languages, all identities, all backgrounds are welcomed, and it really reflects the way it's advertised because people are truly warm and accepting and loving and supporting.
I think that diverse ecosystems are healthy ecosystems. I think that the way in which we renew our literary traditions is through translation, reading the voices of other countries, and of course admitting the voices of other places that arrive to our country.
It's important for migrants to be able to tell their stories from their own perspectives. It gives them ownership and power over their own stories, as opposed to having someone else speak for them.
When we let art grow and when we let art express and our unknown voices get on the paper, we get extraordinary surprises.
I would love to be tired of it and just leave, but every year I'm like, no, I'm not leaving this year, I'm returning.
And I think it's important now more than ever to truly diversify all of our writing and our experiences, and to let other people know I too matter. We matter.
And so I really do hope Dreaming Out Loud continues to do what it is doing and continue growing, to make sure that there's another generation who could dream up of their own world that they can live in.
Hello, and welcome to the 2025 Dreaming Out Loud Public Reading. My name is TC Mann, and I am the Program Coordinator at PEN America for Emerging Voices and Dreaming Out Loud. I've been at PEN America a little over 3 years now, so this is my 3rd year, having the privilege to witness the bravery and triumph of our Dreaming Out Loud students. Today, you will hear from a robust body of work that gives insight to migrant life in New York City. Whether through poetry, personal essays, or children's book, I'm certain you'll enjoy it. I'd also like to take a moment and congratulate the 2025 Dreaming Out Loud cohort. I am so incredibly proud of each and every one of you. Your dedication does not go unnoticed. It takes a lot to complete a program like ours, showing up week after week after week, draft after draft after draft. And with all this going on in the world, some of you balancing family, school, and work, some of you balancing it all, I hope you know how inspiring you have been. I am so grateful for having the opportunity to witness your writing journey, and I cannot wait for your work to be out in the world. Now, without further ado, enjoy the show. Thank you all so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nelson Igunma, and I will be reading some poems for you. First is framing. You keep the photo, I'll keep the frame. As far as I'm concerned, their value is the same. Length, width, weight, and more of which cannot be measured. But now, arrangements for appraisal, since it must be treasured. You said your love was an infinite feast. I thought you meant for me to eat, at least before the least, whose measure you didn't take before they showed their beast. No. You keep the photo, and I'll keep the frame. With eyes like yours, any framing's best seen as same. Scale. Gaze upon my body's marks, strong paper to scribe beats. Beats with rationale so complex, I beg, spare me cheat sheet. Your accounting's likely spotty, and your invoice is so high. So many marks have left me dotty, a scale lightly weighing lies. But your heavy hand might break this scale. I beg you, please relent. Spare skin enough for me to feel some other life events. Baker. Anything you say without consent is a violation. Vile, 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 words spilling from your mouth. Streaming light points, producing no smiles. Anything you do without consent is a violation. Trial, 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 hands grasping at thin airs. Give me cause for shocks running miles as long as tears. Trial, 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 hands grasping at thin airs. Give me shock and consternation, feelings running years. Violator, violator, bake me some bread, but please don't pour the flour upon my head. It might stick like dirt to the dead. Just bake in your words and burn with your thoughts, a careful process, some of your cheapest imports. Thank you for listening.
Hi everyone, my name is Susana Sanchez and my picture book is called Mi Abuela Carmela, which I dedicate to my grandma and my family. Mi Abuela Carmela. Carmen has short gray curly hair. She is old. She has many freckles and smells like home. Carmela was very nice and very funny. She was cariñosa. She always smiled with her cheeks. She made everyone come together. Carmela called me bruja and wished me a good night before going to bed. She made my dad happy and made him laugh. She often said, "Don't be an enojona like me." Carmela is a distant, semi-familiar memory. I hold her very dear to my heart. I think of her often. Carmela is back home, hundreds of miles away. Her whereabouts are a mystery. I hope there are flowers all around her and she's sleeping peacefully. Thank you for following along with my story.
An excerpt of Nostalgia by Jennifer Flores, dedicated to the ones that came before me. I like to think that as I get older, my armor becomes more decorated. Regalia of memories past turn dreams present, like a soldier collecting medals after battles well fought. And maybe through the decorations, I can someday dream of the girl who became a beautiful woman, a woman adorned in the strength of generations past. Or maybe that happens later in adulthood. A mother who realizes her beauty, her humanity, once it's reflected to her in the face of her daughter. Sometimes, when I catch my reflection on a mirror or walk past a window, I'll give myself a smile, just in case it's the only one I see that day. An ode to the familiar face. With every dream you have, every memory you form, life is made real because you experience it. The path my grandfather ran that day is the path I walk today, putting one trembling foot in front of the other every morning. Sometimes I hear, she takes after her father, from a distant relative. How strange is it to resemble a man I never got the chance to meet? Our connection is built by familial recollections of his life, stories told like fables, his memory living through the dreams of those still alive to share them, a notion that we share. The lives we live and memories we hold are vast enough to fill an ocean. The beach, a proverbial beginning of life. The smell of salt water in the air, sea wind coursing through the ringlets in my hair, the melodic rhythm of the waves running to and from their creator, like a playful child careful not to stray too far from their parents, the consistent motion of a wave, a transfer of energy, a patterned, repeated miracle. Its many lessons shared with each current, the ripples of the surface hiding stillness beneath, the ocean, the womb of life, the spreading of ashes across the sea, a great return to our source, a burning Viking ship departed adrift, the vessel to another world. I return to thee, my soul to keep. Few certainties, like waves regressing only to crash again, exist in life. There is only one permanency at the root of our fear and the core of our desire. A fleeting moment you wish to last forever, a dream that was once a memory, your mortality, a reminder to savor, a voyage, the passage of time. Life is fragile. You hold on to it like cupping water with your hands, but it always manages to escape you. Our day, this moment, exists between fragments of our adolescence and illusions of our future. We grasp to our memories, proof that we have lived, an ocean worlds deep.
Dina, the girl who tumbled but never fell behind, by Geraldine Estrada. My parents always said, "Don't run, you'll fall. Don't jump, you'll hit your head. Don't go out in the rain, you'll get sick." But I ran anyway. I raced during lunch hour, tumbled in tag, swung on the monkey bars, scraped my knees, and still laughed. One monsoon day, I danced barefoot in the rain. I showered under the river flowing pipe on the side of Lola's roof. Forgot I was running in the rain. Caught a cold, but it was worth it. Sometimes it poured and I had to stay inside, where it was quiet, dark, and gloomy. I got bored and ate all the 7 mangoes. I got Mom's slippers. Ouch! But every day, I get to try again. Run farther, heal faster, grow stronger. I'm not afraid of the day. I'm not afraid of today. End of story.
Hello, my name is Naomi, and the poem I'm going to read is called The Autopsy of the Hidden. This poem is dedicated to those who feel like their humanity has been taken away by policies that has been enacted. I do want to let you know that you are human and people do see your humanity. Thank you for this opportunity. The Autopsy of the Hidden by Naomi. A new body on the slab. Naked, bare, dark brown. One of them. The other, the hidden, the criminal. Not much information about her, except the name tag on the left big toe. Naomi. Nice of them that they let her keep that identity. The examiner spends hours gazing at the body. The examiner picks up the scalpel. Cold metal on cold body. First incision. From shoulder to abdomen. The examiner sees the still heart. The heart is too big. A medical anomaly. The examiner cuts open the heart. Miniatures of different people holding on to the inner lining of the heart. The hidden, the seen, a lot of the other. At the core of the heart, the miniatures are scarce. The miniatures of the other hold onto to each other. To guard the miniature in the center, the criminal. The miniature, the examiner tries to pull apart the other at the core. Miniatures are inseparable, held together by something stronger than any adhesive. The examiner's gaze moves to the stomach. Something inside creates ripple movements in the muscle. Blade to stomach. Release a kaleidoscope of butterflies. They surround the examiner's room. They stay close to the body. The examiner tries to shoo them away. They remain around the body. The examiner picks up the drill, breaks the protection of the brain, blade to brain. Threads fall to the ground from the brain. Threads make webs, connecting, polluting the brain. The examiner pulls the thread out. No end in sight. The blade swipes through the thread like machete to forest vines. Is that a Ferris wheel? The examiner alters. A Pegasus chases a dragon around the Ferris wheel. Little puppies bounce around the webs. At the core of the brain, a mini globe. Map of unrecognizable lands. The examiner takes the blade to it. The eyes of the body opens. You went too close. Go no further. The body declares the robotic tone. The threads harden, guarding the globe. The eyes close. The brain begins to bleed. The globe submerges in blood. It disappears. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hi, my name is Denia Perez, pronounced she, her, or ella in Spanish, and I'm reading an excerpt from a piece I wrote called Dios aprieta pero no ahorca, which was inspired by my childhood as an asthmatic kid and how the chaos and uncertainty of growing up having constant asthma attacks prepared me for the uncertainty and chaos of being undocumented. And yeah, I'd like to dedicate this piece to my family, both chosen and biological, who have made the uncertainty and sometimes painful reality of being both asthmatic and undocumented a little bit more bearable. So, Dios aprieta, pero no ahorca. I can't pinpoint the exact moment when I learned this saying, but I find myself using it as a spiritual inhaler whenever I feel like God's clutching me a little too tightly. I recite it in my head, visualizing it as a verbal puff of albuterol going into my throat and down into my lungs to help open up my constricted airways. It's also my way of reminding him, her, or them of their promise not to asphyxiate me or my fellow undocumented and perpetually downtrodden folks. Could he, she, they maybe loosen their grip and focus on the oligarchs and fascists for a bit? I think me and the global south have suffered enough and could really catch a break. This internal monologue quickly evolves into a debate when the right side of my brain takes over and reminds me that the merciful and just God, the one who gave us socialist hippie Jesus, is not at fault. White supremacy and its evil twin, capitalism, which were created by men with free will, are to blame for the bulk of our current problems, and Satan himself probably feels outdone by the hell we're currently experiencing on Earth. My left brain chimes in with two questions. But what about divine intervention? Why can't God get all Old Testament and smite these assholes? He, she, and they have performed miracles and stopped awful things before, right? I roll my eyes at myself and let out a sigh, followed by a deep inhale. Dios aprieta, pero no ahorca. A veces aparecen ángeles que uno no espera. I grew up Catholic, so of course I learned about and believed in guardian angels. These ethereal beings, often depicted as babies or children with wings, who are floating about in our orbit and supposedly protect us from ourselves and others, are not what my tia Luisa was referring to when she said this to me last summer, however. The unexpected angels she spoke of were ordinary people who slowly became her family by their showing of kindness and support when she first migrated. My tia Luisa was the first of my mom's siblings to come to San Francisco in 1979 by way of the San Isidro-Tijuana border. She remembers that back then it was untouched by the heavily armed agents and grotesque metal fence we see now. There was only a rope that separated the U.S. from Mexico, and she simply walked across it to make her way to the Bay Area. She was 21, from a small rural town 3 hours outside of Guadalajara, unfamiliar with the culture and language, and moved without having close relatives nearby. She became a mom, married, and learned to navigate the Muni system with the help of some angels, strangers from all over Latin America, and some Italians too, who, over time, became family. These heavenly beings helped her recover from a traumatic C-section, brought her food, and helped take care of my cousins while she recovered, and showed her how to catch the 14 bus from Daly City all the way to Market Street in downtown San Francisco. As she recounted the names and nationalities of her angels and the acts of service they provided during her difficult and uncertain transition to the U.S., I thought about my own encounters with angels. Over the last 34 years, and especially since I moved 3,000 miles away from my family to pursue a legal career in New York City, I've been carried to safety many a times by the kindness and grace of people who were once strangers and are now my chosen family. Most, but not all of them, are U.S. citizens, and each has played an integral part in helping me assimilate to the city I migrated to as an adult in search of opportunity. They've taken turns providing material and emotional support during moments of isolation, doubt, and political instability. And like my biological family did for me as an asthmatic kid, they've happily made accommodations to my legal disability as an adult. They understand that certain plans, like international travel, are off the table, and often take initiative to educate themselves on current affairs. While I never imagined I'd still be living in legal limbo at 35, I take solace in the fact that I'm surrounded by people who are committed to fighting with me against the evils these demonic politicians are unleashing. When I encounter an obstacle or read an update that makes my chest tighten, I close my eyes and take a breath. Dios aprieta, pero no ahorca. Living as an asthmatic and undocumented person has led me to conclude that when God slips up and squeezes a little too tightly, he, she, or they often send an unexpected angel as an apology. They show up in the form of a neighbor, a friend, or a good Samaritan willing to help you understand the difference between a local and express train. While I stand by my initial statement that I'm not sure where I stand on the topic of destiny, I know for certain that the nightmare we are living through and the injustices that I and millions of others have had to endure is surely not the end. Dios aprieta, pero no ahorca, and our defiant existence is proof of that. This is an excerpt from The Crossing, read by Brenda Ochoa. Even before the sun was out, it started to get brighter outside. And Coyote sought out a place for all of us to gather where small bushes and rocks would cover us. He told us to find a comfortable place to lie down and to use big, long leaves as sheets to cover each other so that we would blend in with the desert. I curled up beside my mother, and in that moment, I truly felt the unique, comforting warmth only a mother can give. It didn't matter to me that I had ants and critters crawling up my legs and biting me. It didn't matter that the desert sand was as cold as an iceberg at night, or that all I could hear were the choppers in the distance. It didn't matter to me that we were the only 2 women among a group of 14 men. It didn't matter to me if we were caught that night. I was covered by my mother's love, and that was the blanket I needed to fall asleep and rest my eyes. I remember the scene in Will Smith's The Pursuit of Happiness, where he locked himself and his son in the public bathroom. I could feel my mother's concern for my well-being and her love as a shield trying to protect me from everything out of our control. I truly felt safe. Each day was very different. The first couple of days, we would all drink very little water, with the goal of saving as much for the trip as possible. However, by day 3, your body started feeling dehydrated, and 1 sip every couple of hours wasn't enough. My appetite started decreasing due to us eating so little. Our internal body clock was out of rhythm, given that we would mostly walk at sundown. By day 3, the backpack each one of us was carrying would feel like it weighed so much more than the first day. Our shoulders and feet were filled with blisters and insect bites, and our lips were chapped from the cold and the dehydration our bodies were enduring. By this day, my mother was toward the end of the group. Her pace quickly decreased and her exhaustion started to show. Luis offered to pull her. He took off the belt that he was wearing to hold his jeans in place and began pulling my mother to help her on the journey. The heat during the day, you feel like it would pierce and line your eyes, and the sweat dripping down your face made you feel even thirstier because of the saltiness. At times, your legs would feel numb from all the walking. It was like we were just going through the motions. We had seen a little bit of everything at this point. Snakes would be easy to hear because of the loud rattling noises. Depending on the time of day, we would see different types of insects. Choppers were present almost at all times, and we would see or hear Border Patrol agents in the distance frequently. By day 5, we could finally see the signs of the United States. We would be on the high rocks looking down at the freeway and the towns surrounding the highway. It wasn't safe yet, nor had we completed the journey. Most of the homes had fences and dogs in their yards, and Border Patrol presence was at an all-time high. The coyotes said that we were about halfway there, which made me worry. By this time, most of us were down to about 20% of all the supplies we had packed. My mind just kept thinking that we wouldn't have enough to last us for the entire trip. However, everyone in the group was determined to get to the other side. Since we were already in U.S. territory, there were sections that we would actually be instructed to run through. Given that our visibility was higher, we had a higher chance of getting caught. These were probably the most intense and frightful moments on the trip, aside from hearing snakes and seeing Border Patrol agents. During one of these moments of sprinting, my mother fell hard. She took a moment to get back up, and we told the group she needed an emergency break. We all huddled up between some rocks, and it was then when I realized that she could no longer continue walking. Her ankles started swelling up and turning red. It broke my heart to know that after all this struggle, she would no longer be able to bear weight without the help of others. After about 30 minutes, my mother and I made the decision to abandon the group and find our way to get help. It was a bittersweet moment to say goodbye to Louise and to the rest of the group. Even though we hadn't truly gotten a chance to meet each other and hear our stories about why we were trying to make it to the US, we all shared the pain and struggle during that journey and looked out for each other. My heart was just broken because I knew I could continue the journey, that I could never live with myself knowing that I had left the woman who gave birth to me. I knew in my heart that I had to help my mother no matter what. No questions asked. Thank you. My name is T. Jahan. This is Leela Dreams. Leela dreams, missing her home. Leela misses looking up at the lush canopies of cheerfully bursting green. Leela misses playing with the others near the melodic waterfall where she spent her days. Leela misses being under the protective shade of the elders. Leela misses nuzzling against her mother's legs and holding on to her brushy, worn-out tail. Leela dreams of home, waking up happy, then soon becomes sad, realizing it was only a dream. In her heart, she hopes to find home again. Thank you.
I'm Chris Marcato, and this is an excerpt of Never Tell a Lie. In the woody backyards of a row of Delaware homes, I lined up twigs, first in order of length. I rearranged them to make shapes. I then took the smallest twig to etch my name by the gas tank cover of a black 1984 Nissan 350Z. It was my uncle's car, the same uncle who was hosting us as we moved to the United States. Lies are simply problem-solving tools. Unfortunately, I caused this problem, and then I said I didn't do it. The scratches on the car said otherwise. An alternating barrage of rubber chinelas and high-pitched yelling came from my mom, as if summoned by the Spanish conquistadors who colonized my birthplace. Then came the flurries of wealth delivered by my dad's leather belt, occasionally led by its brass buckle. My cries of no only fueled it. There was no escape, no triumph. Maybe it lasted for 20 minutes on that day. It ended not with an explanation, but a motto. Never tell a lie, my dad sternly said. Later that night, my parents found out the cost to repair it. The next day was better. The beating only lasted for 10 minutes. Just a year prior, I used to dance during the karaoke nights my dad and his friends hosted in Saudi Arabia. But after etching my name on my uncle's car with that twig in Delaware, the kid breakdancer would never return. Except for report cards and diplomas, the kid with the bifocals would share nothing of personal meaning with his parents, no mention of girlfriends, nor meeting with Hillary Clinton, nor being in a U.S. Supreme Court case, nor being hit by a car. Corporal punishment doesn't instill good behavior in children. It beats the self-esteem out of them. And for me, it simplified the family motto, never tell a lie, to never tell. We stayed in Delaware for less than a year. I'm not sure if that was the plan, but a part of me still feels like I accelerated the move to New York City's Lower East Side. I saw the movie Purple Rain for the first time at my aunt's Lower East Side apartment. It has two scenes in which the kid, Prince's character, is involved in the physical striking of a loved one. Those scenes trigger my memories to this day. Regardless of form or frequency, violence from a loved one lasts forever. I got too many hits, he said to us on a December Saturday night at Madison Square Garden as he abruptly ended a medley of his most well-known songs. It was the third time I would see Prince perform live. It was also the last time I would do so. On April 21, 2016, my friend in Los Angeles, Lucinda, was the first to text me a message asking me if I was okay. News spread that Prince died. My idol had too many hits and developed a coping behavior that killed him. Several weeks later, I was in an Uber to Chanhassen, Minnesota, from the Minneapolis airport. I made a solo pilgrimage to his mansion, Paisley Park. I sat on his piano in Studio B, a piano that looked like the one I saw 6 years earlier on stage at Madison Square Garden. I never told my parents anything about traveling to Minnesota solo. I used to get in trouble as a kid for not telling the truth, but as an adult, I've gotten into my biggest troubles for sharing honesty. Never tell is the average of those two dilemmas according to my immigrant math. On April 20, 2017, Teach for America flew me out to its Entrepreneurs United Conference in Houston, Texas. And the night before my morning keynote, I threw away my script. My keynote would take place exactly 1 year since Prince's death. I told the audience about my last-minute speech change and also told them that if something I said resonated, they should let me know by uttering Prince's trademark high-pitched squeal. A handful in the crowd did just that. And I replaced the ending with a few enduring lines from Prince's hit Cream, which includes, "So you should never ever go by the letter. You're so cool. Everything you do is success. Make the rules, then break them all 'cause you are the best." To date, the squeals from the Teach for America crowd remain my favorite call and response tactic in any speech I have written. And the line about making and breaking rules, or mottos for that matter, is something that will always resonate growing up as an undocumented child. That lyric is for the bold and the beaten down, like the 11 million undocumented Americans who, just like my 6-year-old self desired, simply want to etch their name and make their mark in a new place they want to call home.
Hi everyone, my name is Sadia and I'm going to do 2 poems today. And this time I was in the workshop for Sharilu Sai, and I'm dedicating these 2 poems to everyone living in New York City, to all New Yorkers. I live in Queens, New York, so this is for everyone. All right. So the first poem that I'm going to do, it's called Lost Remains. 2019, 2020, and 2021 slipped by. The COVID days left with a sigh. The old phone from home had died. Now the American Samsung Z Flip 3 was here to guide. New days, new roads. Isn't that where New York City life explodes? Bright lights in this concrete jungle. Maybe that's something I need to untangle. Midtown is where I start. Bryant Park and the New York Public Library make my heart. Americans devoured the sweet, while rice and spicy curry are my only treat. And then the next poem that I'm going to do, it's called Your Last Teen Year. It was your last teen year, what should have supposedly been dear. The city that never sleeps, greatest in the nearest eclipse. Destination is a hard game, but destiny is the harder claim. The other teens loitered and blew up on ice creams and cotton candies, and there you were, caught up in the rude supervisor's stupid yellings. Called stone-hearted by the fools, your desires remained masked beneath the walls. At world's end was this new world, where people said dreams and aspirations swirled. So you mustered some courage to fight. Afterwards, the cold wind could no longer hold you tight. And those were my 2 points. Thank you so much for listening to me, and thank you so much for supporting PEN America.
Hello, my name is Nishaba, and I'll be reading 2 poems today. Elixir and Youth. Elixir. If I die, for some days I am convinced I'll live forever. I am eternal, yet so mortal. What will my obituary say? My cause of death, resentment or loneliness? Will I die a rabbit's death, also alone in this hellhole. I suffered and, my care following me around like a lingering ghost. Generational resentment I can't shake off. Paranoid and weak heart, soft beats one can barely feel. Raw and pulsating, torn apart like a bloody pomegranate. There is a being across the table. See, the seat isn't vacant. If I die, for some days I am convinced I'll live forever. I am eternal yet so mortal. What will my obituary say? My cause of death, resentment or loneliness? Will I die a rabbit's death, also alone in this hellhole? I suffered and suffered, my care following me around like a lingering ghost. Generational resentment I can't shake off. Paranoid and weak heart, soft beats one can barely feel. Raw and pulsating, torn apart like a bloody pomegranate. The cigarette that follows from your mouth to mine. Casual cruelty passes from your lips to mine. There's no place for me here, just an uncanny silence. No drums or guitars, no roads, no toast, no love left for me. Love left me alone. I'm hopeless. I've lost my way. The roads, the paths, the tunnel I dug and clawed my way through have been filled up by my overflowing pain, stuck in a loop. There's a being across the table. See, the seat isn't vacant. Youth. The excessive self-consciousness that comes with youth. Hyper-aware, hyper-conscious. So sensitive, one is raw to the touch. Hurt so easily detectable. Sweaty palms, shy glances, the want, the touch, longing glances, unrelenting desires, clasped hands, desperate prayers. Endless tears free falling to mend cracked hearts. An ode to youth. Thank you.
Sullen-faced. A honeyed savory breeze lingered in the air, drifting into my nose and slowly dancing on my taste buds. My mouth watered in anticipation. From how fog veiled my windows, I knew my mom was cooking mole. It was a decadent chocolate sauce packed with endless spices, served over chicken-filled tortillas, and it was my favorite. Maybe it was the ambrosial melody of flavors. Maybe it was how my mom always gave me extra sauce, just how I liked it. But it was always a good day when she made it. The phone rang, piercing through the clinking of plates and forks at the table. It was one of my many aunts in Mexico, one of many whom I hadn't yet met. My dad hated to talk on the phone, except to his family back home. A home that I had not known either. He cleared his voice. Hermana, how are you? My dad was a convoluted person who I could never seem to read. He was a serious man who, on rare occasions, let his mask slip. A soft smile formed at the corner of his chapped lips, and a loud chuckle escaped in between pauses. Something about seeing him happy made my little heart glow. The steam from my plate dwindled, and I began to lift my fork, but my mother shot me a knowing look. It was her way of preparing me to talk to the plethora of relatives in a few minutes. When she looked away, I stole a bite. My dad waved his hand at me. By the way, your niece wants to say hello to you. I took a few deep breaths and grabbed the phone with my sweaty palms. It was always the same conversation. They would ask me about school, addled at how quickly I was growing up. That day, like the others, was no different. I talked about starting second grade, my pesky desk mate, and my favorite teacher who had just moved me up a book level. Except this time, my aunt poured out a bucket of wishes, each laced with desperation and dejection I couldn't understand yet. She went on about how she wanted me to visit, how she wanted me to meet the myriad of cousins whom I had only seen in the faded pictures of our dusty photo album. Once you're old enough, promise me you'll come see us, mi niña, she pleaded. Don't worry, tia. I'll tell my parents and we'll visit soon, I reassured her. I turned to my dad, and a bleak expression painted his face. Tension strained his jaw, and his lips tightened into a straight line. I saw his weary eyes avert mine. My mother's smile faltered, and her gleeful features were wiped away, replaced by a grim look. Anxiety shot through me. Rushing down my bloodstream, I rummaged through all the things I could have done or said. I passed the phone back to him, and we finished eating dinner in silence. The kind of silence that suffocated the room and any last breaths of bliss. While I helped my mom wash the dishes, I asked her, "Why was Papa so sad? Did I say something wrong?" She turned the faucet off and took a deep breath. "Of course not, maybe that. It's just, we can't visit our family." Confusion overtook me. Why not? Well, someday you can, but your papa and I can't go visit. At least not for a long time. A pang of sadness snaked its way down my chest. I don't understand. Her voice was threaded with dejection. Well, we came to live here because we felt it was the best option for our family. But the laws here don't allow us to go back home. My muscles felt paralyzed by anger, and tears brimmed the edges of my eyes. But that's not fair. Why can't they just change the law and let you visit? It's just the way things are, Mija. She gave me a dispiriting smile and held me as I unleashed all my emotions at the world that had let me down. For a long time, I did not understand why we spent Christmas with my family over the phone. I know now that every time my dad promised my grandpa that we would see him someday, it was him voicing a wish he hoped would manifest. What I did not know either was that this was a silent truth that would lock me in a cage filled with fears of restrictive laws, displacement, and losing my family and home. Fears most people could not understand. It showed in the conversations filled with pity and dismissiveness by those uncomfortable with my reality. I had become accustomed to the cage that crushed my dreams of traveling the world, of living without fear. It was difficult to unlock and keep that cage open. Sometimes it still is. Nothing would ever be the same. Nothing would make me feel better. Not even mole. Thank you.
Sebastian Rijo, and this is an excerpt from The Good Immigrant. I exit the room with Mr. White's soiled linens. Once out of the room, I rip off the plastic gown to enable my skin to breathe. I take all of the soiled linens and drop it into a biohazard laundry bin, its squeaky metal lid lifting. I step down the hallway, through the double doors, to the lobby, past security and outside, where I yank off the face shield and N95 mask so I could inhale the fresh air. I touch the bridge of my nose. It's tender, and my ears aren't any better. I pull out my phone from my scrubbed chest pocket and dial Kathy, the immigration lawyer for low-income people that I found on Google. I plop down on a bench in front of the nursing home as I called Kathy. It's a lovely June day. It isn't too hot. The sun is shining through the fluffy white clouds. The nursing home is in the middle of a field, so there is plenty of foliage all around me. There's even a group of deer a few yards from me nibbling on some grass. The phone rings a few times, and I connect with Jane, Kathy's assistant. She explains to me that even though Kathy is an immigration lawyer for low-income people, there is a $50 fee to talk to her for 15 minutes. Jane takes down my debit card information, and I am placed in the queue to talk to Kathy. So much starts racing through my mind as I'm on hold. First off, the fact that I have been inside the immigration system for decades. I immigrated to the U.S. when I was a kid with a tourist visa. Then I was completely undocumented for a time. Okay, a long time. Then I possessed a work permit, then nothing, recalling all the times my only form of ID was an out-of-state driver's license, re-examining the meetings upon meetings with lawyers, immigration officials, and politicians until finally I acquired my green card. Don't argue with me that we don't try to fix this, Hannity. I sat there reflecting on how much I needed to endure to survive, one of the biggest things being that I was required to lie a lot. I had to deceive everyone outside of my immediate family about where I was born, how I immigrated to the U.S., and who I truly was, because I was afraid of them finding out about my undocumented status. It inflicted a lot of pain and suffering for all involved, me included. Thankfully, I managed to establish a better life after I obtained my green card through a marriage that unfortunately didn't last. After divorce, she continued living in the house, and I continued living in the U.S. We both achieved what we wanted at the end. After becoming a permanent resident, I began doing the work to shed the tools that no longer serve me. I started going to therapy, which helped me to cultivate the courage to disclose the truth about who I am. I found a way to share the real me with people that mattered. Just as importantly, I started to hold space for myself and the things I had to do to survive. For the first time, I began to value myself. I also started to live my life with some ethics. One of the new pillars of my personality became honesty. For me, it is about telling people the truth because I discovered that telling the truth felt revitalizing, a feeling of new possibilities when the truth was revealed. All of this rushed through my mind in the 15 minutes I remained on hold. Kathy finally comes on the phone. She covered through some legal preamble, and then she proceeded with asking me questions that, in theory, seemed simple. But for me, they didn't feel so simple to answer. What's my name? Legally? Redacted. Spiritually, I adopted the name Sebastian. I refused to be named after the man who abused, served as the reason my mother, sister, and I immigrated to the U.S., overstayed our visa, and ended up undocumented. What is my home country? Technically, the redacted. But I have lived in the U.S. since I was a child. I am now 32 years old. I consider myself more estadounidense than anything else. What is my mother's maiden name? How am I supposed to know that? The lady refused to tell me anything about herself. These questions weren't merely a way for Kathy to get to know who she was speaking with. There were also questions on the N400, the last questionnaire an immigrant goes through before attaining U.S. citizenship. To me, this resembled the Sphinx gate from the film The Never-Ending Story. I had to remain vigilant when crossing because at any moment, the Sphinx can open their eyes and electrocute me with their thunderbolts. Kathy kept going, her questions rolling out in that same calm, official tone. Then she landed on one that hit directly. So, have you ever done anything in the past that might complicate your application for citizenship? I paused, and in that pause, everything, the years, the choices, the hope, tightened into a knot. There were decisions, I said finally, things I did when I was younger, but they led me here, to this job, to help people. Doesn't that count for something? Silence. Then her voice came back, clipped and distant. I'm sorry. I won't be able to move forward with this. That's all I can say. She didn't explain. She didn't have to. I could feel the shift, like something had closed. Hello, she said. Are you still there? I was, but I didn't know what to say. I knew what the right answer had been. I also knew it had cost to say anything at all. My thoughts spiraled. Did I say too much? Not enough? Was silence safer? Was honesty a trap in this point? The moment stretched heavy and electric, and then the world changed. The sun slipped behind the trees, the air turned thin. The deer had been grazing earlier vanished without a sound. Something in me knew this wasn't just a pause. It was a line I had crossed. Hold on, I finally exclaimed. But I have so many dreams. I aspire to become a U.S. citizen so I can vote. I eventually want to pursue public office. I want to become a mayor or a senator so I can be a representative for my community. These are my dreams. I don't know what I expected from Kathy, but what I was met with was a white woman's response to a brown person grieving the destruction of his dreams. So give up on those dreams, Kathy said. Give up on my dreams of helping my community and being a force for good. And that's when it all changed. That's when the anger set in. All of a sudden, the sun came back with a vengeance. The temperature rose to 98 degrees, and instead of a deer, it was rams crashing horns into each other. Kathy, I said, how dare you tell me to give up on my dreams? I want to be more so I can help my community. Also, I am a nursing assistant right now. If I hadn't done what I did, I wouldn't be here today, taking care of the same racist who voted for a man who is letting them die during this pandemic. When people bang their pots and pans for healthcare workers, they are banging them for me. So how could this country be calling me a hero on one hand and a criminal on the other? Make it make sense. Sorry, Kathy responded, but your time is up. Click.